My name is Myah Webb, and I am here to present my senior seminar project. As you can see, the goal of my project was to create a productivity home extension. So I guess I will go ahead and start off with my project demonstration, and then you'll of course see this presentation in Blackboard, but but let me go ahead and show it to you. All right, wait, wrong button. So as you can see here, this is what I was actually able to complete with my productivity Chrome extension. As you can see, it's not an extension form, but I did size it and display it here as a way to track my progress and how I'm designing and going through it. And I'll go into the details of like my process and how everything went when I go through my presentation. So as you can see, it's as simple. This navigation works. This is Pomodoro's, my homepage. You can navigate to notes. Let's see. Has to load, had it open for a while. There we go. So notes, so if I had the time, I would actually have this filled out. It would have been like an add button, a remove, different way I can write notes and scroll. It'd be like a scroll bar or scrolling section here where you can write whatever notes you need. The same thing with calculator. I have space open for it. I just haven't been able to get to it. But overall, my minimal viable product was essentially to have a working Pomodoro timer. As you can see, I have the default time actually set to 45 minutes of work time and 15 minutes of break. And the cool thing is, it's totally functional. This bar right here, you can allow you to change your time frame from the least all the way up from 1 second, 1 minute, all the way up to even just 3 hours. And look how, as you can see, as I'm going through different amount of minutes, it converts from minutes to hours when needed. And I'm super proud of that because that was like one of the last things I worked on that I'm glad I got fixed. The same happens for the breaks as well. The color and background of what they call the trail path for when the time is going out, it matches whether or not you're on break time, work time, or break time. So for the sake of demonstration purposes, I'm going to set both timers to 1 minute. All right, as you can see, press play, it toggles, pretty awesome. And that toggling effect actually was achieved within, let's see if I can find it real quick, on this side of the screen. Here, basically, it acts as like a if statement in a way, where if it's paused, I can click and pick between, hey, show my pause button, my play button. If not, I can click again and it'll show my pause button. And it's super cool. At first, I had my pause and play button right next to each other when doing that. And of course, the functionality for my restart button is right below. I pride myself on being able to get these elements lined up right next to each other. And yeah, and actually, as a way to start, one of the biggest things about this project is I actually use a reference from YouTube that actually gave me an idea how to even go about completing a Pomodoro timer. So if I go back to here and pause this real quick before, let's see. I go here. This is what the guy's Pomodoro timer looks like. Is this guy here is pretty awesome. Found this pretty cool concepts. Some stuff was a little out of date, being that it was 4 years old, but with a little research and help with AI, I was able to kind of figure out, okay, this is the right one to use, right type of timer. So he originally used this thing called React Circular Progress Bar, which actually gives you the circular progress bar. For me, on the other hand, it was out of date, so I had to kind of research, and I found that in my case, for my project, my progress bar, I've had to create it using circular progress bar. It's the more up-to-date version of React's progress bar to get this up here. And actually, let me go back here. I'm going to play this real quick and go to what his finished project looks like. As you can see, I did not copy from him directly. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay, they're really going to town on these ads today. Right. So the gist of this project is, yeah, he can press play and it shifts from one color to another. And then if you press settings for his, say, let me go back here. If he has his setup where if you press the settings, you can create your own, you can change the amount of time for your work time and action and break time. Not sure why it's not showing it. I'm trying to get to a point where you can see it. So let's see. You have to press settings, and that's how his our control bars are set up. And I didn't really want that because the whole point of my project was to make it accessible within the main frame of the extension. So going back to my project, I'm going to continue to press this last 10 seconds. What it's supposed to do is through the use of these different modes of set if pause and if not pause, it will set the whatever values needed for whether or not my project's paused. It will switch from work time to break time. So as you can see, we shifted to a greenish blue color, and as you can see, we're on a break time set here. And this would basically continue all the way around to the point where it will keep repeating on itself. And then even while you're using it, you can always pause at any time and refresh it. So in this case, if I press refresh, and because I'm on break time, it will reset to break time. Pretty cool, right? I think so myself. And actually it continues where you are from where you pause. So going back to my presentation. Share this. So my productivity Chrome extension, right? So as an introduction, the whole idea of my project was create an extension that increased your time management and ability to access different tools without having to navigate between different apps. The audience, of course, was towards students like myself or office workers, maybe even software developers, who may be looking for ways to get quick calculations, make quick notes without having to go through clicking past your phone or clicking on your notes and then it basically hiding behind whatever current browser that you're using. You don't really want that. It's pretty boring. Or, well, it's pretty inconvenient at times. At least it's annoying to me. The aim was really to be a unifying app to streamline workflow between switching between tools, of course. Requirements. So, my functional requirements that I was aiming for was, of course, to have a Pomodoro timer, but the timer was also supposed to play music from an important Spotify playlist, and also to have it have a buzzer whenever it's ready to shift between work time and break time. I wanted a note taker, a full on, like almost like a mini Google Docs, where, but of course it's in note form. You can change whatever color font, you can highlight, make bold. But the most important thing, the whole idea is I wanted it to actually be able to create notes, read notes, delete notes, and all be connected and stored within an API called Chrome Storage. I haven't had the chance to get to that. I haven't had the chance to actually get to that part of my project, but I will go into more detail about that later on. And then my third feature I wanted to have was a calculator. And it wasn't going to be your same everyday calculator. It was going to be a time zone. It's going to have like tools like time zone conversion or weight distance converter, or even a script-based calculator. Where, say, for instance, instead of pressing buttons like the keys, you could even press the whatever. Say, for instance, like 2 times asterisk times 3. Basically, it's saying it's 2 times 3 with click instead of clicking the multiplication button, you can actually type it out and then have it solved that way. Just to streamline and make the calculator more convenient for quick everyday needs instead of having to research it each time. Or pull out your calculator, it's right there with a simple click on your browser's extension. My non-functional requirements, I actually wanted, if I were to get it to actually work via Chrome as a Chrome extension, I wanted it to actually, it was going to, well, by the actually have the official Chrome extension, you have to have it satisfy the manifest v3 requirements. I wanted to, of course, as mentioned before, use Chrome Storage API, to actually store data. It's like an easier way to securely and accessibly access and utilize data. And also, I was going to create a disclosure saying, hey, being that we are using Chrome Storage API, there is no need to disclose data. No, or at least no data will be disclosed or collected without explicit consent. And performance and user interface, of course, I wanted the extension to actually stay under 250 megabytes. And actually, I kind of achieved this part. And of course, I got it to be intuitive. So the way I have it now is everything that you need to use to actually function and access the Pomodoro timer is straightforward. It's familiar. It's there's no thought behind it. I don't think it's simple and straight to the point. And of course, it's available as your home screen as your main pane, so you can open it up and go straight into using it. So my most, or basically, a most valuable product, which was, as I mentioned before, is having a working Pomodoro timer. So yay, out of all the things I wanted, at least I got that done. And of course, as you've seen before, it's functional and it works and it has visual and working visual timer gauges. So here are some images from my analysis and design. Basically, how I was going to go about developing my project, basically organizing my features to how vital or what level of severity or at least what level of requirements I wanted to have for it. This was like, I believe this was 4 weeks, maybe a month or so ago, and I guess I overestimated my ability to complete this size of a project within this time frame. But hey, you live, you learn. It's a good experience for me nonetheless. And of course, here I have my my Chrome extension system, basically just here to represent how the user might interact or use the Pomodoro or even Notes app or Calculator app when accessing the extension. So they would follow the path, and they'll probably go here. They might press pause, or they might press capture, or they might view it. It's just an idea to give them. It just basically this chart is to show you what are all the different actions that the user can take while utilizing the extension. And here I kind of show my test stories, just give an idea of how an everyday user might click and use my extension. And in this case, being that Pomodoro timer is the object of focus, is of course, say for instance, user story one, college student will click or at least access the extension. They'll set the timer, press start the timer, and then automatically the music would play as the timer is going through. And here I have my architectural design where I go into my UI designs. I wanted to have a good design presentation wise, have easy to use tabs, everything is there. And I really wanted to toggle. And technically being that it's on a localhost web browser, it toggles. And of course, I'll have like these different types of controllers and different types of functions I thought I'd been able to use. And I'll go into detail on different key functions that I've used in my project as well. And being that I didn't actually get the database side, my data layer would have been accessing and using my Chrome API or JSON objects to help transfer data from the Notes app to and from the extension. My tech stack I actually used was React, Next.js, TypeScript, Hero Icons, Git, GitHub, Tailwind CSS, Node, and it was hosted on VS Code. I chose this tech stack because it was the most recent tech stack that I used on my internship, and I wanted to treat this project as an extension of reapplying what I learned during my internship during this past summer of 2025 into my current senior semester. So I was really excited about doing this project and having the chance to put this presentation together and to reestablish and reinforce the skills I learned. Here are some pictures and images of my implementation. So when I first submitted my implementation, this is what it originally looked like. I was kind of trying to get used to the idea of, okay, how would I actually put my Pomodoro timer on here? What would it look like how much space would it take up on the screen? How would I need to format it? So this is kind of what I got for. These could navigate between the tabs as I did before. And I wanted to just get a functioning static timer on here. And that's kind of what I did. And as you saw the in my basic demonstration, I actually have my working Pomodoro timer. I actually changed the shaping, made it wider so I can compensate for my timer gauges. I originally was going to put them down here, but it's like, yeah, it looks nice from the side. I kind of like the look, and it kind of fits my original design from back here. Let's see if I can find it. Oops. Let's see, I should have pasted it on here. If not, I will go back and show you guys. in my document. And one thing I wanted to also show is my VS Code file tree, just to kind of get an idea how my project is stored. In the source file, I try to keep everything like my basic navigational pages, my icons. I didn't really use some of this stuff, just like template stuff. So the things that are mine for what I designed was my layout page, how I want the navigation or formatting to basically be situated throughout the entire document as a whole globally. And I have my global CSS, it kind of covers like basic design, basic CSS that I wasn't trying to do via Tailwind. Tailwind I kind of use for more specific icons and focuses. And from there, we go to components. Components is what I would say the bread and butter of the application. That's where you actually, whatever you're putting on the page, on that current page, in this case, a Pomodoro timer, which is called the Pomodoro.txx, that's where I actually hosted the code segments that actually made this possible to exist on this page. The one cool thing about components is this timer is actually its own separate component that I basically referenced in to the Pomodoro timer just to make this application more feasible and make it piece by piece so it can be reusable. The pieces of code can be more reusable throughout whatever project. So say for instance I want to do some other type of timer of sorts. I could probably put it on a different page and then it won't conflict because it's being filed in from a separate component file. Here are some more images kind of showing like this is like one of my, let's say my favorite, or at least one section of code I would call one of my more favorite sections of code. Here I have work minutes, set minutes, breaks minutes, all that different things. This was basically the gist of showing, one way I would describe it is showing the before and after effect of the code. I'm still new to these concepts and explaining how they work, but one thing I can say is that they're useful in basically changing states. So if the button click, for example, this is useful from changing between states of pause and if not pause. If it is pause, the pause button will of course place button will show. If not, the play button, the pause button will show to change the states in that way. And even the tailgates, or at least I believe it was the trail colors, or trail path, that's what it was. Or even just having the timer switch from work to break was the use of states as well. I love states. They're super cool. It's like a form of soft animation through your code. And of course, one thing I can have down here is the APIs I want to use. And actually, after some research, I found that I wouldn't even really need a calculator API. At least, did I put that in there? Nope, I didn't. Okay, I took that out. But these are different APIs I would like to have used if I had more time to actually finish my project. But hey, I'll probably have time to work on some during winter break. Obstacles face. As I said before, I was going to round about on that. So, when you're working on a Chrome extension, turns out that in order to even run the extension, actually see what you're doing, you have to do npm run build. You have to build use that with the node, and that basically creates a file, and I'm going to demonstrate that as well, that allows you to open your managed extensions, and you can actually open in there. But the problem is, every time you make a change in your code, you won't see it. You won't see the update, even if you got the extension open. So my solution to that was using npm run dev to actually open a local host browser URL to actually host my project. And that's what you saw in my previous demonstration. And that way I can actually see my changes. But the problem was when I was going between making changes to my npm run dev by localhost and my actual extension, there were inconsistencies in the formatting and design, and I couldn't even get the project to my tabs to navigate through all the way. I think I fixed that, I believe. I gotta go back and look, but we'll see when we get there. Another thing obstacle I had to face was of course reteaching myself basic concepts of JavaScript syntax. I realized that man, even though I took it and was working with JavaScript, React, and JS, and Next.js in June and July. I'm like, man, I have not been using it in some months. I need to refresh myself. So I did a couple refresh videos on like arrays and certain data structures and states. And props, that's another thing. Props are very important of being able to transfer and reference data between different files. And yeah, and of course, learning how to put a timer together. Never developed a timer before, but I have used modulus to actually calculate the difference between time and basic homework problems. But hey, this was a fun project. I'm glad I got to do it. And my last main obstacle, or at least my last main theme of obstacles was I had an unexpectedly harder semester, basically due to me taking discrete math and physics. I swear that's ate up probably most of my homework time and additional study time. I actually spent most of my time during winter break to actually work on my project and actually get myself caught up and getting myself in the zone of doing the project. And I'm still happy with at least reaching my minimal viable products nonetheless. And of course, when coding, you come across errors. I utilized AI. So say for instance, I got like, I should have recorded what error I did. I had TypeScript errors. And it may not be an error in JavaScript, but TypeScript's looking for certain formatting things. Like say for instance, you can't use lit seconds to try to format your seconds to have an additional zero. You have to use const. In order to use const, you got to use certain syntax to actually convert your string, or at least your number into strings, and actually to properly uh, format your timer to actually work correctly with the amount of zeros or whatever that you need. All right, and that is it presentation-wise, and I will go ahead and demonstrate my extension and how it will look if I can get it open. Of course, we worked on a project all semester, and I enjoyed it. Hopefully, in the future, I would like to add on to the note-taking feature, embed the Spotify playlist, and finish the calculator. I have my LinkedIn and GitHub attached, and actually, if you go to my GitHub, you can see my progress and how I completed the project. And yeah, thank you so much. Let me go ahead and show you guys. Let's see, I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to press Control C, cancel this real quick. Now I'm going to go npm run build. Okie dokie. I'm going to refresh this real quick. Let this load through. As you can see, it's kind of loading in this terminal, trying to load my project. It usually takes a bit of time, especially since there's more I've added to the project since building it last time. I believe I built the actual project maybe a week ago. So yeah, just going through his different checks and everything should be fine. There's no errors, I've made sure of that. But let's see. Okay. All the checks seem to be going good. Oh, and one cool thing I want to add about Chrome extensions, and in order to even make a Chrome extension, you have to have certain files to actually make that extension. So this extension file I had to create, the first thing I ever did when I made the VS file is I created this extension folder. Then I had to create an assets folder, and well, no, I had to create the manifest, and the manifest kind of gives a description of what my project is, my version, and how to basically this line of code actually allows it to come up when it first runs. So as you can see down here, it has been completely built. There's no issues or errors. I got my pop-up HTML, pop-up JS. I didn't see, that's another thing. I try to watch tutorials on how to use those, but I guess I didn't need them. But I guess that's a time crunch thing for me, just trying to figure out how, maybe I just didn't build the Chrome extension correctly. But nonetheless, I'm proud of what I made. So now that we are in Chrome, I'm going to go to unload, to load package. We're going to navigate to presentation. We're just going to click this shortcut, go back up. All right, I believe I go to, no, I go into .next. Now there should be an, oh, there it is. This is the file. So this is the file you select. And this is how you should be able to load in your Chrome extension. And as you can see, boom, it's loaded. So now from here, let me move this zoom toolbar. I should open my project, click it, and as you can see, here it is. And it's not the same as what I designed before. In fact, let me pull up a side-by-side view if I can. It'll let me. I'm gonna do this. And we're gonna pull my project down here. So this is what it should look like versus what's in the Chrome extension. Buttons don't work. I can't navigate. So hey, but it was still fun to try it out. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this video wasn't too long. Have a good rest of your day.